cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. Is there anyone new or from out of town? We'll start over here. Hey, Laurie, welcome. Julie, welcome. Welcome, guys. Welcome, Joe. Andrew, welcome. Jim. Drew. Hey, Laura, welcome. Albert, welcome. Mark.
I'm Tommy, I'm alcoholic.
Tom, welcome. Eric, welcome.
Mike, alcoholic.
Mike, welcome.
Susan, alcoholic.
Susan, welcome.
Sean, alcoholic.
Sean, welcome.
Chris, alcoholic.
Chris.
Drew from Jersey, alcoholic.
Drew.
Chelsea, also from Jersey, alcoholic.
Welcome.
I'm alcoholic.
Welcome. Welcome, Dave. Sean, welcome. Chase, welcome. Zach, welcome. Tim, welcome. Casey, welcome. Jake, welcome. Matt, welcome. Welcome, everybody.
Might get quicker to have the repeats.
Yeah. If you have any questions or would like to make this your home group, please see any group member after the meeting. Would group members please raise their hands? Newtown Speakers encourages sponsorship. Would anyone with a working knowledge of the 12 steps and is willing to sponsor, please raise your hand. Thanks. Coffee and snacks are available in the other room. If you haven't already had them, you can wait until afterwards. If you need a big book, please see me after the meeting. We also offer childcare during the meeting in the nursery. Are there any announcements for the good of AA?
Hi, my name is Denise. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Denise.
Everybody. October 17th, young people of AA are having a share day at the Bristol Senior Center. It starts at 3 o'clock. And November 8th, the district is holding a workshop, and it's the history of AA, and that will start at noon.
Thank you very much.
And it's at the 8477 Club in Gold Road.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John, alcoholic.
Hey, John.
November 6th, 7th, and 8th is the Great Northeast Group, 4318 Frankfurt Avenue in Philadelphia. We're flying in some speakers. We're going to do a big old workshop. Ken C. from Ohio, Sheldon F. from Las Vegas.
Thank you.
Let's have people study November 3rd, happy anniversary. It's 276 North Keswick in Glenside, PA. Tuesday, 7:30. You got Bobby Boyle speaking. Come on out.
Thank you. Ron.
Tomorrow, Robbie Walker, Doylestown, at 8:30 p.m. in St. Paul.
Thanks, Ron. Oh.
The Spirit Group in Sellersville, Pennsylvania, which is at Penn Foundation, we're having our group anniversary Wednesday night. Food and fellowship, 6:30, speaker meeting, 7:30, proceeding after meeting, 3 minutes.
Thanks, Nora. Please turn off all cell phones and please limit movement during the meeting to avoid all distractions. This is a smoke-free and vapor-free meeting. Smoking is permitted outside by the basketball net. Please use the butt can. At this time, we would like to practice the seventh tradition. We're self-supporting through our own contributions. Please do not contribute if you cannot afford to. At this time, I would like to have Anthony come up to give you a little history on the Newtown Speaker Group.
Figured I had a little bit of time to do this while we're passing the baskets. My name's Anthony Bearden, and I'm an alcoholic. Wow, first of all, it's really a pleasure and an honor to do anything in AA. But it's just an ultimate pleasure that even though we get caught up in our busy lives and we're running around doing AA and we don't get to see each other as often as we like, it's just a beautiful experience to be able to get to see everyone chip in and to be a part of this. And I really love you all. And the Newtown Speaker Group really appreciates everyone's effort. And I appreciate everyone's effort tonight. And by the way, I can ramble for a couple minutes because we do have the church for as long as we want tonight. And Larry is going to start and he'll speak for an hour as soon as he gets up here. A brief history of Newtown Speakers. Basically, me and my wife moved out here a few years ago. And I was here probably 6 months hitting the local meetings, and a bunch of us, seemed to be doing absolutely nothing on a Friday night. We just started asking around and to see, where could we be of service and what would be a good night to do it. And it seemed Friday night would be a great night. So some of us got together, myself, my wife, Kyle Curtis, Rob Havman, Danny Dionato, Chase Wexler, and, it's been an awesome ride here. It really has. And, there's some people that have been involved with our home group that are no longer around, that are struggling, and that are also here tonight. But once again, it really is an honor to be a part of this and keep things moving and, to keep things alive and to keep that spirit going. And that's kind of how we got this church in the first place. I had an interview with the pastor and the director, and this is the first time AA has ever been involved in this church. AA has been turned down before. And I sat down with them and I told them about our purpose, God dependence and service to others. That's our job here, and we just want to be as simple as possible. A free cup of coffee and a message of hope. And it's been a beautiful experience just seeing it grow and be a part of. And really thank everyone. There's a long list of everyone who's chipped in and been a part of this tonight, and we're very grateful. And I guess I will turn the rest of the meeting over to Casey. That's it.
I have asked Tom to come up and read the preamble.
Hi, my name's Tom. I'm an alcoholic. A preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy. Neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety.
And I have asked Tom to come up and read the 12 steps.
My name's Thomas. I'm an alcoholic. The 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. 1. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5. Admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6. We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7. Humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8. Made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9. Made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10. Continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Thanks for letting me read, guys.
At this time, I would like to introduce our speaker. It is Larry from California.
I wasn't quite sure if you were going to get that all out. Hi, everybody. My name's Larry Thomas, and I'm an alcoholic. And I want to thank this group for inviting me out to be with you, and Anthony for extending the invitation. And for all you that put this thing on and had anything to do with this, I want to thank you for having me come out. Had a great plane ride out here. I flew out from Los Angeles and got in last night. And if you're new, I'm the type of guy that's got a busy head. I got the type of head that the more tireder I am, the more it wants to chat. You know, I could be physically beat like I was last night and lay my head down around 2:30, and boy, sure enough, man, hey, Larry, let's chat. Come on, let's talk about when you're a baby and bring you right up to date, for God's sakes, you know what I mean? And the frustrating part about that is we'd just done that the night before, you know what I mean? And, you know, just telling me about the weather, and that, you know, CNN was on, and I was watching that, and it was talking about how it was going to rain in California, and I started thinking about that, started worrying about the rain, and what's my little wife going to do, and, you know, what happens if the pool, you know, floods from too much water? Where does that water go, you know? Does it go underneath the house? Does it go to the neighbor's yard, get her mad at me again, you know? Where does that water go, you know? Bothered me all night because I don't own a pool, you know. I'd been thinking about getting one, but not after that night, man. I ain't getting one. But while I was up, newcomer, I was watching the news, and they had found that they come up with a cure for alcoholism in Switzerland. And yeah, and it comes in the form of a pill. So, you know, you hang in there. There's hope on the horizon, you know. And naturally, my first thought is, God, I wonder what 2 would do. You know, can you crush them up maybe, you know, you get this thing moving, you know. But I'm glad to be here. We've got some new people in this room, and they've all come back because the baskets are back. But I'm here to let you know that I'm here because my way don't work. In or out of Alcoholics Anonymous, my way of living doesn't work. And my sponsor tells me that I'm living proof that a man can stay sober for over 33 years and not amount to a damn thing. So I'm here to give Thomas some hope, you know what I mean? And I never want to forget what it's like to be new. I never want to forget that. And some people get sober and they forget that. How do you remember what it was like to be new? Because I work with new people. And that's all you talk about. You talk about when you were new and you identify about what it used to be like. And I never want to forget that. I never want to forget that first year, but especially those first 90 days, how the people of Alcoholics Anonymous treated me. How kind they were. How they invited me into their meetings and invited me into their homes. And I was not a guy that should be invited anywhere. I've had people drive 300 miles just to kick my ass, you know. I mean, I was not being invited anywhere. And I'm not here to tell new people or anybody how to live and what you should do and all that. But I would like to be the first one, maybe in a long time if you're new, to extend an invitation, if you will. I'd like to invite you to a brand new way of life. How would you like to stay sober and have a brand new way of life? Or is the one you're living just tickling the crap right out of you? That's what I had. I had to learn how to live. I did not learn how to live. And that was one of the hardest lessons for me to learn in Alcoholics Anonymous, was that I couldn't live my old lifestyle and expect to stay sober once I'm in Alcoholics Anonymous. It's been a long lesson, but what I learned through these steps and with people like you, and especially a home group, is I can't be wrong with people and right with God. It's an impossibility. And thank God for the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And one of the first things that they shout at you when you're new, I'm responsible. And one of the biggest character defects I've had my entire life was I was irresponsible. I ran from responsibility. I didn't want nothing to do with commitment. Don't threaten me with a 401k. I'm out of here, you know. I mean, I wanted nothing to do. You know, I don't hang in for nothing, man, you know. I'm not a guy that just, well, you know, I get up and let's just dig in, you know what I mean? No, man, you know, if it just gets a least bit, well, I'm out of here, you know. And I think that was one of the things that a home group taught me, was about that principle we don't hear about, but it's called consistency. You know, that no matter what's going on in your life, you're showing up no matter what. It's a heck of a principle to have, you know. And I know what it's like. I don't know how big your home group is, and it really doesn't matter, because when you got the mind of a newcomer, 2 is too many. You know what I mean? I'm into me, and don't mess with that. You know what I mean? But I remember being new, and my home group's fairly big. We have a couple hundred people, and I'm about 2 years sober. I got sober in what they call an Alano Club, which is an AA clubhouse, so to speak. It's kind of like a bar without alcohol, you know what I mean? And I go to my home group, and I got my new sponsor, and there's all these people, and they're standing around, and they're clean, and they're sharp, and my sponsor's got his arms around these guys, you know, and his back's towards me. So I'm feeling alienated, you know, and the longer I went to this group every Monday, it was just, I was sure that my sponsor liked these guys better. It was very obvious, you know what I mean? And my sponsor would take off for the weekend like I'm doing and go talk somewhere, and while he was gone, I'd grab one of these cats, and I'd say, hey, Bob, how come Johnny likes you better? And he says, oh, man, that ain't true. He just knows them longer, man. You're just a new kid on the block. It takes time, man. You know how many people come and go out of here? You know, just keep showing up, man. It'll go away. And I'm such a people pleaser, you know. A couple weeks later, the old man takes off again. I grab somebody else. Hey, Ray, how come Johnny likes you better? Oh, man, will you get off it? It ain't like that at all. Quit trying to, you know, seek his approval. And he was right. What a mistake. And it was one of the defects of character I had, was seeking people's approval. And if there's one person you shouldn't do that to, it's your sponsor. Because if you're like me, when you're seeking somebody's approval, you hold back some good stuff. So they don't, you know, so they can give you the nod. Well, you shouldn't do that with your sponsor. Besides, he knows you're a goof. You know what I mean? And it is amazing what happens over 33 years. You go away for the weekend, the old man goes away for the weekend, and now I'm getting these calls from these new guys in the group. Larry, how come Johnny loves you better? And I tell him that truth, because you're a loser. You know, and I hang up the phone and get out of there, man, you know. But I got a good life because Alcoholics Anonymous. Only because of I haven't had to go anywhere else to get anything else done. Isn't that an amazing thing to finally have that experience? I don't know when it happens. Somewhere in our book it says if we're painstaking through a certain phase, you know what they're talking about. Look where you're at in that book. You've gone to some people. You've gotten out that checkbook. You've come face to face with some folks. And I don't know, man, it was an amazing thing to finally feel like I was a part of something. You know? And I've never been a part of anything my entire life, you know? And I want to thank Alcoholics Anonymous and the people that come ahead of me for laying down this path. And the people that are still showing up for their home group, you know. And it speaks volumes to me. It speaks volumes to me. I want to thank those guys for, you know, the beautiful hotel. He's got me in at the Hampton Inn. Beautiful place over there, and it's great. About a month ago, I was at another conference, and they had me in at the Marriott, and I shared the Marriott with 500 Jehovah's Witnesses. That wasn't too bad, you know, except that I had a desire around 2 o'clock in the morning to grab a big book and go door to door, you know what I mean? You know Bill and Bob love you, you know, just to see how many of them would open up the door naked, you know. But I was born in Detroit. I came out to California when I was telling somebody this, and I came out to California when I was about 4 years old, and my mom and dad put me away for something, you know, they had to work out some stuff, and they stuck me in a little orphanage over there by Pontiac, and they finally got together, and my sweet mom says hi. I give her a buzz tonight, and my mom's a Scandinavian lady, just a little thing, you know, and she loved diet pills. So she was always eating that speed and running around the house around 3 in the morning, you know, sorting out nuts and bolts in the garage around midnight, you know what I mean? Just a busy lady, you know, and no matter what time you got up, she was up, you know what I mean? She's cleaning shit with your toothbrush and stuff like that, you know. I wasn't like that when I took speed. I had an electric toothbrush that I would use and clean everything, man, you know. And when you know, and she had her hobby. She'd eat that speed and make Afghans, you know. Everything in the house had fresh Afghans on it. Chairs had Afghans, you know. Couches had Afghans. My dad's golf clubs had little poodle heads on there, you know. And if we had any animals, they had a fresh vest on, you know. And everything was tight and pink, just like her, you know. And just a busy lady. And the house was small. We didn't have a lot of money. And she had a little room where she was working all night. And you could just hear her all night, just going to town, man, you know. And when you eat that kind of speed, you have a lot of hobbies. And you need to do them all at once, you know what I mean? And as some of you know, you know. And her favorite hobby was to eat that speed and make these huge jigsaw puzzles. You know, not the 30,000 pieces, you know, the 500,000 pieces, you know, of the Mojave Desert, you know, and this would get her all excited, you know, it's going to be a beige night tonight, honey, you know, and she would go to Save-Ons. This was her routine. She'd go to Save-Ons and cash in the prescription and then get a carton of Raleigh cigarettes because they had coupons on the back. And she would save these coupons to buy more yarn. It was a hideous cycle she was caught up in, you know. She'd come home and put that stinky peroxide on her hair, put her one and only muumuu on she had for 40 years, and get behind that breakfast nook and start putting together this puzzle and smoking those Raleighs. And if she got a puzzle piece that didn't fit, well, she had a big pair of toenail clippers, and she'd snip that son of a, you know, just wedge it right in there, you know. Now, what was to come to pass for me is I would finally come to Alcoholics Anonymous, Sean, for which I hope is my last time. And I'd get together with you guys and a sponsor and a home group, and I would start on this fact-finding process, which we're talking about as a 4th step. A fact-finding process where everything that I want to keep from you needs to come out. Who is that guy who lays his head down on that pillow? Who is that guy really? And I would see things on this inventory that were a part of me at such a young age that I was still dragging with me, 30 years old, coming into AA. And one of these things on this inventory, and my mom was on top of that list, her and my dad, is what I would do with people who gave me love and attention and affection. And you know what I did? The same thing you would do. I played her like a fiddle. There would never be a time too inconvenient, and in my case, an age too old, for me not to put the tap on that young lady. I never want to forget that. I never want to forget what that used to be like. I never want to forget what that was like when I was 17 years old and put away in an institution for a small period of time. And I'm supposed to come out on a Monday and I'm supposed to report over at the city, and I don't. No, I don't even come home at all. No, I show up on a Thursday morning, and I show up in a parking lot of a dry cleaner's. Yeah, you see, my mom's working in a dry cleaner's, and she's cleaning people's homes, and I'm ashamed of her, and I make fun of her. But I'm not too ashamed to show up that morning with the rain hitting me, and I'm in a parking lot, and it's raining out, and I'm about from here to that wall. And I'm hiding behind a car, waiting for that customer to leave with all my drunken mud on and everything, so I can duck in there and hit my mom one more time up. I never want to forget that. I never want to forget what that was like to march into that little dry cleaners of her. Without skipping a beat, she opens up her wallet, and the picture falls out when I'm 8 years old on a Little League team. And that would be the only picture of me she would ever have until I meet you guys. And without skipping a beat, she gives me $1 and $2, and I grab that money and I run off to Long Beach where I'm going to die. Now, the thing that brings it home to me tonight in Philly, Newtown if you will, is you take this same young man, new in Alcoholics Anonymous, with my so-called desperation and willing to go to any length. And I need to ask you new guys something. How come when my life depends on it, if you were to put the secretary of this meeting or Anthony or any other of these cats, if you were to put him in front of you and you're in this meeting where every action that you take your life depends on, I need to ask you something. How come when your life depends on it, if you were to put Anthony that same distance as me and my mom in that parking lot, how come you can't walk that same distance and ask this young man for a job in a meeting that's going to save your life? But you can walk that distance and use your mom and dad and people like that time and time and time again. And I'm here to share with you, if you're new, it's been my experience, and that's all I have, that if my alcoholism doesn't kill me, my selfishness and my self-centeredness will. Make no mistake about that. Which is why it's necessary for a man with 33 years to have a routine of meetings during the week and a job in every one of them. And it's not so I can run off to Philly and tell you about it. Well, there's a little bit. It's for one reason and one reason only. That I will never get so sober that I can't get drunk again. But I can get so drunk that I can't make it back. And I never want to forget what that used to be like. Because that's what we share here. What we used to be like and what happened and what I'm like today is a result of me giving my life to you. And if I can find out that thing that keeps me from serving Alcoholics Anonymous and start serving this thing that I expect so much from, you can't keep it from bleeding in every area of our life. There's a miracle here. There is a miracle here. And it's one that you can't pray about. It's one that you can't think about. But it's one you must do something about. There are things to do here. I wanted so much from AA, but I didn't want to get up off my butt and do anything about it. And my whole life was like that. I've had my hand out my entire life. I'm a something-for-nothing guy. Give me that dope, I'll pay you later. Give me that pint, I'll pay you tomorrow. Give me what you guys have, and I'll work the steps some other time. I wanted instant gratification because I'm the type of guy who needs to feel good. I don't know about peace of mind. I wouldn't know peace of mind if it bit me on the knee. I'm an alcoholic. All I know is how to feel good, and the feel good is something from the outside in. But when that book talks about we will enjoy peace of mind, there is a spot there, my friend, that once you have just a taste of that, you will do whatever you can to have more of that. Because that peace of mind is something that happens to me and you as a result of this way of life, that no matter what's going on around you, through you, or with you, you're all right here. No matter what's going on in your life, you know deep down inside where you live that everything's going to be all right. Everything's going to be all right. And if you doubt that, go back to where you were the day before you got here. Think about where you were and what you were doing and tell me something hasn't moved you. Something hasn't moved you real good. And I began to rely on the thing that I could see so much, and that was you. You were my evidence of a power greater than myself. Now, my dad was a nasty drunk. My dad was a happy, singing the blues, Nat King Cole, Bobby Darin drunk. He was a happy drunk. He loved to sneak into his own damn house. It was an amazing thing, man. He was an old window-climbing alkie. which I believe is a lost art in Alcoholics Anonymous. That guy who stands on that gas meter all day pounding on that window, hoping it's his own home, to make the incredible dive into the house, man, you know. And he was a refinery worker, and he had on these big boots, and he was always working shift work. And I remember one night he snuck in there, and that boot came down right on my chest, you know, and I grabbed that boot and I said, you know, Dad, why don't you have Mom make you a set of keys? You know, my God, she's up anyway, you know. I mean, I can hear the Hoover going now, you know. And I tell you, my dad, me and him were butting heads for a long time. I grew up with one dream, and that is to get as big as he was so I could hit him. I couldn't stand him. I hated the old man. Hated everything about him. I didn't like what I was hearing in that house. I began not to trust these people I was supposed to have in respect for. I didn't trust them. I didn't trust my mom because I could hear her yelling and screaming and that furniture scraping over the linoleum and stuff going on, and I didn't like her because she let it happen. I didn't like him because he was doing it, and I blamed myself for it. How come you're not stopping it? I know you're only 5 or 6, but you're not even trying to stop it. And I had all the guilt that I could handle. And I had so many questions growing up, and I didn't know who to go to. I felt terrible about not loving these folks that I should have been because I don't trust them. I was afraid to be in that house. I never had any sleep, and I wasn't even taking my mom's speed. I was afraid to go to bed. I was afraid of when he was going to come in there and move me around again, start tossing me around like a stuffed animal again. I got tired of that. I got tired of going into that garage while he picked out his weapon of what he was going to hit me with. I didn't want to be there no more. I didn't know what to do with all that. I started running away from home. I'm sneaking out the windows. My dad's sneaking in the same window, you know, and high-five each other as we're leaving, you know. I felt more part of life around a street light at the middle of the night than I did around my dinner table. I started running away from home and sneaking out and doing what you do when you do that. I know at 11 years old, though, there were 4 of us in a garage, and we started passing around a bottle of 4 Rose whiskey. And I stepped into the most peaceful place that I've ever found in my life. It just shut it all off. That sense of well-being, that sense of safety, that sense of belonging, and that you're not that crumb. And if you are, it's okay right now. Everything was good. That little window that you step into every time you take a shot of whiskey, and how it opens up, and man, there's nothing like it. It shuts off that head, makes you not afraid, turns off all the sirens in your head, and just for a little bit of time, you're all right. You know? I didn't know until I come to Alcoholics Anonymous that wasn't really happening. That doesn't happen to everybody that drinks. That everybody just drinks that doesn't have that feeling. And that the one that I was having wasn't really going on. That it was a delusion. And that window opened up every time I drank. And by the time I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, and the older I got, the smaller that window got. And the smaller that window got. And the smaller that window got. And by the time I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, there was no window. There was this thought. Somehow, someday, I'm going to get that stuff to work like it did in 1965. I'm going to get the right combination of whiskey and heroin. I'm going to get the right combination of pills or something. I'm going to find that spot that I found in that garage. I've got to find that. The idea of leaving it alone never entered my mind. You see, if you're new, I'm an alcoholic. If you got a problem with drinking, if you have a drinking problem if you're new, you won't need us. All you got to do is stop drinking. Everything will be all right. You learn your lesson. But if you be an alcoholic of my type, we don't learn lessons. We don't. We don't. We're the only type of people that those things that are supposed to shape us up and scare us away, drive us right back into doing it. We go, man, I got to do that one more time. You know what I mean? We don't learn lessons, man. If you be alcoholic, you've been trying to believe that lie and fit it into your life in these countless vain attempts to try to live the lie. And what's the lie? The lie is that we all have heard this our entire life. If you stop drinking, everything will be all right. And me and you stop drinking, we're not all right. And the longer we stay sober, the worse we get. We've got the only type of malady that no matter how nasty that last drunk is, We could be rolling around in the pigs for 2 years. We can do the most disgusting things that a guy could think of. We could have physical things going on with us that should shape us up in a moment. We've got the threats of all the institutions, yet we're the only type of people that the memory of that is pushed away by what? By the pain we feel when we're not drinking. And the only thing that not drinking is ever squeezed out of this head is, this time it's going to be different. I'm going to find a spot like I used to. And it doesn't come to me in those words. I didn't learn those words till I read the book with you. It came to me in what's the use? Screw it, what's the use? I've not drank before, and there's no relief in that, except that the longer I don't drink, the worse I feel. And I run off to AA, and I see these jerks with these ties on from Los Angeles going, 30 days ago, I was on the streets of Los Angeles. Now I'm the president of the Bank of America. Thank you, and I'm going, Jesus, I came in with that guy, you know what I mean? Where was our high resolve? How many times have we swore off forever? This isn't our first shot at it. We're here because we've tried every imaginable remedy. We've prayed to God. We've had people cry their eyes out. God, Daddy, please, not again. Son, please don't do that. Don't you see what you're doing with your mother? If you loved her, you really wouldn't do that. And it's because I loved her that I couldn't stop. It was killing me because I knew I would do it again. I wish love would make me stop. But you see, it isn't the conditions that got me drunk. It's not the institutions. It's not all the guys that I low-rided with and shot and robbed houses with. It wasn't the lack of money or lack of education. What was it lack of? Lack of power was my dilemma. Even when you want to stop, you can't because you lack the power. It's not that you lack the knowledge or you lack the remorse or you lack the experience. Yeah, we got that by the buckets full when we get here. That's what keeps us up our night, are those memories. I don't lack anything, man. I remember every little pudgy face that I robbed. You know what I mean? I lacked the power. And I didn't know what that was. I thought it was weak will. God, I love going to panels. I love going to the VA and talking to these cats that have been in the service. I sponsor a bunch of them. How would you like to be a Vietnam vet, a Desert Storm vet, Afghanistan vet, and you got all the pride in the world about your country? Nobody loves your country more than you, and you are loyal to your flag. And you've been with your comrades, and you've gotten medals, and you've gotten shot, and you've got all this pride about your country, and you've got all this strength and honor. And you're going to tell me I can't handle 2 shots of bourbon? Baby, you're talking to the wrong guy. I've seen battleships go down. I've seen casualties by the buckets full. I've been out there for weeks without nothing to eat, and you're going to tell me I can't handle 2 shots of whiskey? How do you tell that to the guy? And yet there's this jackass like me way on the other side. I ain't got nothing going for me. I'm living on the streets and I'm destined to die. And yet I've got the same amount of pride. Don't tell me I can't drink. I've lived in the gutter for 10 years. The same amount of pride, lack of power. And they say pride heads the list. They ain't kidding. They are not kidding, man. The only thought that I've ever had in people, how many times you've been on that gurney in the emergency room, right? You're all bloody, you've been ran over, you've been shot and stabbed, you got one arm up there and the leg down there. And the alcoholics are the only one that while they're laying there, the only thought that they have is, boy, when I get out of here, I'm going to Eddie's liquor store. Laying on that gurney. Make that go away. See, that's what insanity sounds like to the alcoholic. See, that's what insanity sounds like. Insanity isn't running around your meetings going, blah, 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 That's just lack of sponsorship, you know what I mean? We all know what insanity sounds like. We all know what it sounds like. What does it sound like? You guys know what it sounds like. The book describes it so perfectly. Suddenly the thought crossed my mind that maybe some whiskey and milk How many of those have you had? You knew you had to be at this place. You knew you had to see this person. You knew you had to shape up. You knew you had to do something. You knew you had to go somewhere. Suddenly the thought crossed my mind. And we go with it. Because we lack the power not to. We're like a tail on a kite, baby. When that wind's hit, we're going, man. And not a thing in the world. And that was the baffling feature of my malady. Is I thought that had something to do with me. That was something that I could do something about. Now I'm growing up through high school. And the older I get, the more I'm leaning on this stuff in my dad's garage, whether it be that Thunderbird wine or my mom's pills or his barbiturates. By the time I'm a freshman in high school, kids are going to their lockers to get their books. I'm going to my lockers to take some pills and a shot of whiskey to take away the shakes. I started hanging around some Mexicans out there in California. And we used to lower our cars. We don't get four-wheelers and go in the snow and all that crap. We used to lower, I had a 62 Chevy, dropped right down to the ground, man. You could put a pack of cigarettes onto there, man. I'd get my hair up real big like a Bakersfield tumbleweed, all slicked back. I had my white T-shirt and black khaki pants that came up to here. I'd drink that cheap port wine and drive around, and we'd listen to the Four Tops and the Temptations and the OJs and Marvin Gaye, and God, I loved it, man. I was in my plumbing truck last week, and the Four Tops came on. I just start sinking in my damn truck, man. I loved it. I had a Mexican girlfriend named Lupe. She had her hair curled up real big, and her sister would curl her hair with soup cans, and the noodles were stuck in there, you know. We'd drive around and shoot that heroin and drink that wine and wonder what the heck you're looking at, man, you know. Her girlfriends were telling me that men who are well endowed had big feet. I had a pair of 15-inch shoes I would drive around in. Had my big hair and my big feet and my big dreams, man. I loved it. Somebody tripped over my foot tonight and I felt proud. Let me move that thing. You want me to take my shoe off? You know what I mean? I loved it, man. I loved it. I ran into a kid like that not too long ago. Several years ago, I'm up at the shopping mall. We all got those shopping malls, and I'm in this mall, and this kid comes walking by me. And he's like Thomas. He's got, you know, he's a badass. He's a real badass. He's got his shorts on, and they're halfway down his butt. You know what I mean? He's got his ball bearings all through his head. You know, he looks like some kind of voodoo doll or something. And he's a really bad kid because he don't have earrings. He's got his damn earlobes drilled out. He's got these which is every sponsor's dream. Because the moment he turns around and says, I ain't doing that, you just grab that son of a bitch. Grab that other ear, bring him right back in here, you know. And so this kid walks by me, and he's all buttoned up and got his mommy's heels on and stuff, and he's got a ball bearing here, a couple up here, some earrings, got a ball bearing in his tongue, a big chain around his neck, and it's chained to his wallet. He goes walking by me, and he starts staring at me, and I start staring at him, and he goes, what are you looking at? And I says, I don't have a damn clue what I'm looking at, you know. I wanted to squirt him with some WD-40 to make sure he keeps moving on, you know. Well, we sat down and we started eyeing each other, and then we started laughing, and now I sponsor him. Yeah, his name was Ronnie. He lived down there in San Diego. He was an ex-sailor, and you know, he was like, you know, when you start sponsoring people, they have your defects of character times 10, you know, and one of my biggest defects is that I'm very lazy. I'm very lazy. I wake up thinking about my nap is what I do, you know. Drives my wife nuts, you know what I mean? Everything's around 2:30 in the afternoon. We're going to work it around that, you know. Well, he was also lazy, and he was, you know, he had 90 days, and I said, look at here, champ. I said, you better start getting a job and become self-supporting through your own contributions. Yeah, I says, you know, you're not going to be no taker around here, you know. I love that. I love that. Oh, if you're new, you don't have to put anything in the bucket. My ass. If you're breathing 1 ounce of sobriety and you've munched on one of our donuts, put in a buck. And don't tell me I can't afford it. Oh, sure. The guy's out there vaping $200 oil. Right? Got 3 cell phones on, you know. Multi-million-dollar diamond earring. Oh, I don't got any money. Sell your crap. You know what I mean? Anyway, that's the last of my opinion, right? They'll be running me out of here. Anyway, and so finally Ronnie calls me up. He said, Spons, I got a job. And he was so excited. You could just see his tail wagging as he's on the phone, you know. I said, that's great, Ronnie. What are you going to do? And he says, well, it's only part-time work. And I said, that's okay. Well, what are you going to do? And he says, well, 2 to 3 times a week I go to a sperm bank. And, you know, Jesus, I could just see the kid getting ready for work. You know what I mean? You know, oh my God, you know, wrapping his lunch, you know, putting his gloves in the bucket, you know, got his gloves and everything in his lunch bucket, and, you know, just he grabs the Hustler magazine and heads off to his hands-on job, you know what I mean? He's doing good now. But I ran around with these lowriders, and I loved it, man. I loved my gang. I loved the stuff we're doing, and man, I was somebody. Like Bill talked about, you know, he had the look of a golfer, the tan face, and he found his people. And I found my guys, man. We ran the streets, and we did our little nickel and dime stuff, and our little robberies, and our fights and stuff. And man, I loved it. I wasn't Betty and Bob's little boy. I wasn't that goof next door that looked like Howdy Doody, you know. I was an ugly kid. You know, and I'm an ugly old man now, you know, but in my head I became Lawrence of Torrance, you know what I mean? And nobody else knew that, but that's all I knew. I had enough fuel and I was somebody, man. And every time I took a shot of whiskey, man, I was in my spot, you know. I didn't know it was going to turn on me. I had no idea this thing was going to go sideways on me, you know. And around 1969, everybody was going places. Some were going to Vietnam, and I thought I'd grab my buddies and head off to Detroit and find my roots. And I wound up in Phoenix, and I'm over there off of North Central and Roosevelt at the Apache Hotel. It's about a $30 a month hotel. I'm on the 5th floor, and everybody's got a bathroom. It's down the hall. Everybody's got a TV. It's in the lobby. And I'm in this little room, and I got a window about this size, and all you do is you look out your window and you drink and you dream and you die. And you know, one of these days it ain't going to be like this. One of these days I'm going to have something. I'm going to be something, man. It ain't going to be like this. And I start seeing things when I'm walking the street. I start seeing things around noontime as people driving by me, and I see these guys driving by me in trucks, and they got work belts on, and they got dogs in their truck, and they got saws, and they got like normal jobs and stuff. And I'm thinking, maybe that's its time. Maybe that's what I need to do. Maybe I need to start doing like the old man, and maybe if I start living normally, my drinking won't be so wild. Maybe that's what it is. Isn't that amazing? And I become obsessed to live a normal life with my alcoholism. And the only thing it did is drive me to drink. Now, isn't that amazing? Because to the untrained eye, that's exactly what it looks like happens here. People come in, they stop drinking, they get a little job, they get a little room, they get a little car, they get somebody to dance with, and to the untrained eye, it looks like the treatment for alcoholism is normal living. And nothing could be further from the truth. We got people sitting in this room tonight who couldn't fit another car in their driveway, and yet they're restless, they're irritable, and discontent. Why is that? Because the treatment for alcoholism has nothing to do with the material. You don't need to come here to get those things. That just takes hard work and good fortune. But the treatment to your malady will be and always will be me, you, and that book, and the perpetuation of this gift. I never want to forget what my first sponsor told me when I had 15 days. I'm in this mission, and we have to sing for our beans, and then they kick us out at 6 in the morning on the streets. And then I was supposed to go to that club, and I remember my sponsor picking me up. He says, Larry, I know what you're thinking, and he did. He says, you're sitting in these meetings, and you have nothing but what's on your back. And you see all these people with stuff going on, and they're telling you what they've been blessed with and how they've been blessed. And they tell you about all their material things, their college degrees and their cars and their jobs. He says, don't you worry about that, son. He says, I know they look successful, and they probably are, but you didn't get sober to be successful. He says, you get sober to become useful. And how true that is, the longer we stay sober. See, if you're new in Alcoholics Anonymous, you're worried about tragedies and you're worried about a lot of things. And one of the things that I was worried about is, what happens if people die? And what happens if I get something happens to me and people die? And if you're new in Alcoholics Anonymous, we will not shield you from life's little bullets. We're going to pitch you smack dab in the middle of life, and you better have a program and a home group and a sponsor, because that will guide you and protect you and stick you in a way of life. That's what will protect you, is this way of life you're going to live. You don't have to worry about the tragedies and stuff like. Sadly, we'll be there with you. But the one thing you better watch out for, and everybody with time knows this, the one thing you better, with the biggest hurdle in your sobriety, will be the good life you're going to be living. The good life kills more people than anything I know. They get it so good that they'll show up on birthday night, and you'll hear them every morning at the attitude adjustment meeting how they've been blessed with their cars, and they've been blessed with their dogs, and they have all these blessings. And yet if you watch them close enough, most of them hang themselves with their great blessings, because they forget to come back to the place that blessed them when no one else would. You are my greatest blessing. You, without a doubt, are my greatest blessing. And in 1974, I'm over there in Phoenix, and I get caught for writing prescription, which wasn't a hard catch. When you're loaded on whiskey and barbiturates, there's no freeway chase on Channel 2 going, there he goes, down to 250, none of that, I was going 9 miles an hour, and the cop was on foot. He was just walking. I'm in my car, and I'm going, my God, can this cat run? And they pulled me over, and I was arrested for writing prescriptions. I'd been writing prescriptions for Seconal and Tuinal and Nembutal, you name it all. I wrote it all, man. Damn near took it all, And so they locked me up for a period of time. In 1974, they send me back to Los Angeles, and I get put on Antabuse. And I get a little room down there. And for 2 months, for the first time in my life since I'm 13, I don't got a thing in my system. I don't have nothing in my system since I was 13. And I'm on Antabuse. And my probation officer gives me a job interview, and I go to this job interview. I take the bus. 2 hours before my job interview, I'm wandering around this Little League dugout. I begin to get hysterical, maniacal, start hallucinating. My paranoia becomes so tight that I become somewhat catatonic. Somebody sees me milling around this dugout. They call the paramedics. They take me to the Harbor General Hospital in Torrance, California. They stick me on a gurney with an arm and a leg tied down. They seem to look through my jacket, that because of some of my things that have been going on, that I need to be put in a state nut house for 30 or 60 days to be observed. A year later, they send me away out of there, and I finally get out of there after a year. They send me in this little van. I'm tied down in this van, and they send me out to Camarillo Nut House. A year later, they let me out. They got my Thorazine. About 2 months, I'm out, and I ran out of Thorazine. And they find me over at Ovella Street in downtown Los Angeles, Skid Row. I'm behind a little gas station, and they send me up to Wayside in 1975 County Ranch. I'm up at Wayside. This may take a little longer than 10 minutes, but I'll hurry. What do we got, a dance? No? Okay. So I'll hurry up, and I'm up at Wayside, and I'm going to be sentenced to 2.5 years in the state penitentiary. And after about 40 days, they put about 50 of us in a black and white bus. They send me down to the South Bay Courthouse, and I'm in a holding tank about this size. And one by one, everybody that I was on the chain with is going away. They're being cut loose, or they're just disappearing. 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm the only guy left. I got a Vaughn's bag and no hope, wondering where they're going to send me now. All the buses are gone, all these other guys are gone, and 4 o'clock in the afternoon, a Scottish man with a patch opened up a jail door. He says, "Aye, lad." He says, "Are you Larry Thomas?" And I said, "Yes, sir, I am." He says, "Come with me, son, we're going to AA." I thought, AA? I've heard of OR and PO, but what's AA, and who's the Scottish pirate all of a sudden, Aye, lad, I've been hallucinating so much, I didn't know if he was real or not, Well, looking back well over 33 years, I know exactly what he was, because this room is sprinkled with him. I know that because I know some of you. He's what my book talks about as being a trusted servant. Now, what would make him a trusted servant is simply this. He had no business being there. He wasn't on a panel. He wasn't part of H&I. He was a refinery worker that just got the worst news of his life, and that news was this, that his wife was dying immediately of a terminal disease. He knew that she was in good hands, but he knew he wasn't. You see, but somewhere in his home group in Newtown, somewhere in his home group in Bellflower, California, that man was to sit with his home group and a sponsor in that book and grasp and develop a manner of living that ingrained in him this. Practical experience tells us that nothing will ensure immunity from drinking than intensive work with other alcoholics, that this works when other activities fail. And that's the thought that came in his head. He turned his car around and he headed to the South Bay Courthouse. He talked to Judge Foy and Judge Hollingsworth, and they said, "Yep, we got a guy for you," you know. And that man took me to my first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous in 1975. And I was ready for a long ride up north and maybe some lunch, right? He took me to a 15-minute car ride to my first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. And he rolled up to this dingy, stinky, rotten, perverted, disgusting Torrance Lameda Alano Club. It was one of those, you know, those clubhouses. And he introduced me to all these people. I didn't know what an Alano was. I thought it was an elk or a moose or something, you know. And he pulled up, and there's all the Alanos walking around, man. Everybody had a nickname and a tattoo. He introduced me to Singing Sam and Serenity Sam and Dancing Pete and Whistling Butt and all these other people, you know. And Little Moose was running across the parking lot. "Hi, I'm expecting a miracle." And I said, "I bet you are." I said, "I'm not it." This transvestite comes circling around me like a helicopter in Los Angeles, and after about 3 times around, this transvestite comes up to me in his moo-moo and he says, "Hi, I can't wait to take you to our candlelight meeting." I said, "I don't think so, big guy, you know. Not till I get a year anyway, you know what I mean?" I told Alex, I said, "My God, he's got big feet, you know." And from 1975 to 1982, I came in and out of Alcoholics Anonymous, which was the biggest lie that I told myself. I hadn't touched AA. I did what I'd been doing my entire life. I've been doing this in the state, in the city, in the county, in the government since I was 13. I sat in rooms waiting for you to do something for me. I've had my hand out my entire life. And what I was waiting to be done to me, God was waiting to do through me. And I ran around AA telling what all those slippers do when they're doing that. They tell you this AA don't work for me. AA don't work for me. My case is different. AA don't work for me. And I've come all the way from Los Angeles to tell you new cats this, that after 33 years, AA don't work for me either. It doesn't work for Anthony. It doesn't work for Kevin. It doesn't work for Drew. We work for it. And you need to wrap your head around that. You need to put your head around that. And I had no idea that there was stuff for me to do. If I say that I believe in God so much, what are you willing to do for Him? And that whole thing about being a trusted servant isn't about general service. It isn't about if you can trust God. It isn't about if you can trust your secretary. How much can we trust you? Can we trust you to carry this message? Can we trust you to handle your commitments? And on May 2nd, 1982, I made that final phone call because I knew that I wasn't going to die. That I'd wake up living that hell over and over again because I was powerless not to. And I stood up on May 2nd, 1982, like I'm doing tonight, and I said, "My name is Larry Thomas. I'm an alcoholic." And for the first time in my life, I felt like a member instead of a guest. And I was willing to do everything that you folks were doing. People that I'd been making fun of for years, I now had to start taking direction from. And you taught me about being a man. And you taught me about being respect by respecting a thing called a home group and the people in it. And if I can respect my home group meeting and my coffee commitment, isn't it amazing that eventually you can trust and respect your wife if you ever have one? And if you ever get a job, you'll learn how to respect your boss. And you'll learn how to be of service no matter where you're at. Now, if you don't think your seat in your home group is important, I got a story to tell you, and then I'm out of here. About 5 years ago, I'm sitting at my house, and I get a call from a man that runs the central office. And this story's for you, young man. I think about you all the time. I get a call from a man that runs the central office in Santa Barbara, California. And he says, Larry, this is Tim. I got a guy coming out of the Georgia State Penitentiary. He's got 15 years. I'm going to transfer him to California Lompoc. He doesn't know anybody in AA, but he's sober. Is it okay if he writes you? And I said, yeah. And sure enough, Samuel moved to California, and he sent me his first letter. And then I sent him my first letter. Now, what do you write about? Well, I tell him about you. I'd write about my home group and sitting in the third row in the third seat with my sponsor, my wife, and, and what you guys would say. And every week or every once a month, we'd write these letters. Well, eventually, we started talking about our first step, and Samuel would write me about his first step, and so on and so forth. And he was a black man that I eventually found out, so every time he would write me, I could hear Lawrence or Morgan Freeman's voice, It helped the letter, you know what I mean? Well, eventually I got this letter, and the letter read simply this. Larry, I just read your letter on the 12th step, and I'm sitting in the yard. I'm sitting in the yard and I'm watching the guys play handball and lift weights. And he said, for the first time in my life, man, I got a dream. He says, I'm not used to sleeping in here and having dreams. I've lived a nightmare my entire life. He says, but today I have a dream, and I need to tell you what that dream is. That dream is, as I look out over this handball court, that one of these days, I'm going to get out of here. Now, he's doing life. Armed robbery. One of these days I'm going to get out of here. And one of these days I'm going to take a bus, and I'm going to take it to Los Angeles, and I'm going to transfer over to Bellflower, and I'm going to show up at the Monday night meeting. And I'm going to go to that third row and that third seat, and I'm going to find you, just so that I can thank you for these beautiful letters and this dream. Now, I never thought much about that. And as time goes on, you just kind of every now and then you look over there and see if anybody's there. But I'll never forget that day around Christmas time that the meeting was about to start. And I feel this tap on my shoulder, and I turn around, and it's Samuel. Samuel picked me up, and he hugged me around like this, and it scared the shit right out of me. I felt like an hors d'oeuvre, you know what I mean? And he didn't look like Morgan Freeman. He sat me down with the biggest grin. He said, Larry, he says, my name is Samuel. And I said, well, I'm glad about that. He says, I came all the way over here to tell you that I love you. Thank you for those letters. He says, I knew I'd find you in that third seat. How about that? If your seat ain't important and you don't think folks are watching you, man. See, I'm a stickler for evidence. How are you going to find a guy? I never believed in anything. This is only the fourth time I've been in a church. I mean, I don't come from religion. I don't know about God. I've been running from... How are you going to have a guy like me come to believe in a God? And I got to find one because I lack the power. Isn't it amazing, through your commitments to my home group, that the more I served you, the clearer he became? And the more that I served me, the darker I became. There's a miracle here. And if you're new in Alcoholics Anonymous, all I can tell you is that I'm a stickler for evidence. And on a Friday night in Newtown, I see row after row after row after row of people who should be locked up dead or insane. And look at us tonight. We're long-winded. We're happy. We're joyous. We're free, we're eating pasta, we're pinching legs, I love it. I love it. I don't ever have to wonder what my God looks like. I'm looking right at him dead square in the eyes, and I love you. I came all the way from LA to tell you that I love you. I can't keep from loving you. Every time I come to the East Coast, man, I know there's a part of me here. I love coming out and seeing with you. And if you're new in Alcoholics Anonymous, just come back and play in this evidence one more day. Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank Lawrence one more time. And with that, I'd like to close with the Lord's Prayer.